Hey everybody, Jim Tedesco here from Millennium County RR version 2.5. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Today we're going to work on converting your computer PC power supply into a 12 volt DC power supply for your layout. This is especially helpful if you're running a 12 volt DC bus line underneath your layout. You need a way to power it. And you could take any old power supply unit out of the computer. A lot of you probably have one lying around anyway. Or you can even buy a really cheap one. It doesn't matter. Now, I'm using the old one out of my computer, which apparently works fairly well. It's 600 watt. It wasn't really enough for the computer that I needed, so I put 1,000 watt in, but the 600 watt is plenty of power. I think it's like 30 amps of power that's capable of at 12 volts DC. So you can power a whole line of stuff with it. Of course, it's not so simple as just plugging it in and, it works. There's a few things you have to do, and I'm going to walk you through that today. It's real simple. Hell, if I could figure it out, anybody can, right? So, without too much further ado, I'm going to walk you through this. I'm going to hand hold the camera, and hopefully we get a good sharp picture out of it, because I want to be able to get close enough so you can see what's going on. So anyway, let's go ahead and start. Now, I've opened up the power supply. Now, usually there's, 4 screws that'll secure the two case halves, or just a cover. And that's going to allow you to get to the inner workings. Now, what we're going to be looking for first, get some of these wires out of the way here. There's a blue wire and a green wire here. Now, this is unusual because most of the time you could take one of the black ground wires and plug it to the green wire, which actually turns the unit on, so you get 12 volts while it's plugged in. Otherwise, it's not going to be on because it relies on the motherboard to supply power to turn everything on. So we're going to be going ahead and, well, I've already done this one, but in my case I had to use the blue wire and the green wire, the little ones, to put them together, and that'll assure you have power. And you'll know you have power because when I plug it in, the fan will run. That fan right there. And that means that everything's active. Now you've got to separate a bunch of wires. Now, this one doesn't have wires hanging out of it. It's a, what do they call it? Damn, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's modular. So you just plug in the cables you want in the back. Which I took the board out. And you don't need this board anymore, so we can take it out of there. So this is where you would plug in all your peripherals and your main power for your PC, but this is no longer useful or necessary. So we just took it out and cut the wires off of it. So you're going to have 4 sets of wires. You're going to have the orange wires here, which I cut off. That's 3.3 volts. I have no use for it. Now, if you're going to use 3.3 volts, you want to leave at least enough hanging over to where you can connect them up later. But for the most part, we're thinking about just using 12 volts DC. So that's the orange is the 3.3 volt leads. And the red here, it doesn't even look red, but it is. They're the 5 volt leads, which we won't be using them either. And I cut them down just long enough so if I ever want to use them down the road, I could splice into them and have 5 volts DC coming out. But the one we really want here is the yellow. And that's your 12 volt DC. Now, there was a whole bunch of yellow wires coming out of it. Let's see, there was 3, 6, yeah, a total of 6 yellow wires. We don't need all 3 of them. So what I did is, and I don't know how you can see this here, where it goes down in there, there's 2 different rails. See if I can use a better pointer here. This is one rail, this is the second rail. So we took 1 wire off each rail, put them together, spliced them together, and that's going to be your 12 volt lead or output. Now it's the same deal here with the black as well. Now the black is your ground, and there was 3, 6, there were 9 wires for the ground. We didn't need that many, so I cut 2 off of each of the bundles. So I've got a total of 3 wires, 1 for each rail. I don't know why you can see that there. There's 1 rail, there's another rail, there's a 3rd rail over here. So we took the 3, spliced them together onto a butt connector, and that's your negative or minus 12 volts. And that's the only electrical connection you really have to deal with. Now I set this up to where I just put my main wires in into this crimpet, and then we're good to go. I probably use, I might use some sort of a plug-in or some sort of a connector so I can easily disconnect the power unit from the bus lines, which would be smart. But that's what you got to do. Now, hold on a second. Let me position the camera over here. Let me put the lead back in the positive. This is going to stay. Looks like it will. Okay. I've got my multimeter hooked up. And I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. You'll notice the fan is running. And we have 12.30 volts. Well, actually 12.31 volts. So that's our output. So now we're good to go. All we have to do is button up the case. In my case, I'll take these 2 leads and feed them out the back through there and put the cover back on, and that's basically, you've got yourself a 12 volt power supply. Plug this. It's a simple way of doing this. Now, like I said, there are some, I think it's the ones that aren't modular, where you're only going to have a green wire. Now there's other wires, you can cut them out. There was a gray wire and a light green wire that I took off. This one here and this one here. They cut them out of there. They were down here on the board. We just cut them out. They're unnecessary. I don't know what they do. They're not important in this respect. These 3 sets of wires are all you need to do. Yellow for the 12 volt out, black for your 12 volt ground, and the green, in this case blue, put together to turn the unit on. Now the ones with the wires hanging out, and the really older ones, you're going to look for the green wire, and you're going to take one of the black wires, any one will work, and put them together, and that wakes up the power supply. So like I said, if you have questions, you can give me a call or shoot me an email or something. I can walk you through it. But this is a smart way to do it. It'll save you a bunch of money. Let me put this over here. Get my ugly bug back in there. This will save you a bunch of money from having to buy either wall warts, which you generally don't have any real power to them. You know, most of them, you're lucky if they're 1 or 2 amps. Maybe you might get one with 5 amp, but that's it. Like I said, you're going to get 30 amps or better in this. And because you've got a fan on it, it's also going to keep it cool, which of course will give you much more reliability down the road. So it'll age better. And like I said, you can pick these up for as little as $10, $15 new if you needed to get one, if you don't have a used one laying around. But chances are you probably got an old PC in your basement or your closet. You know, strip the power supply out of it and utilize it for DC power, especially if you're running a 12 volt DC bus line for your layout. You've got all the power you need. And it's not going to cost you, if you have the power supply, it won't cost you nothing. If you have to go out and buy one, $10, $15, just get a cheapo one. Even a 200 watt will be sufficient. The bigger is better, of course, but it depends just what you have laying around. So I think this might be the smart way to go. And it's real easy to do. You don't have to be a genius or an electrical expert to be able to pull it off. Like I said, it's basically 3 wires and you're good to go. So, let's see here. Push these through here. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of length on the black. Which would have been nice if I did. Let me just put this. Make sure it's, make sure no wires are exposed to where they can short out against the body of the power supply, because you don't want that. Plug it. Should be showing you what I'm doing here, huh? There we go. And we're just going to go ahead and pop this cover back on. This time actually making sure the wires are pinched. Okay, there we go. Now we got the screw holes in the right place, I think. Try it again. There we go. One down. Two down. We're getting there. 2 more to go. Three down. And the 4th one in. There we go. Plug it back in, make sure it still works. We didn't disturb anything. And it works. Double check my voltage. And there we have it. 12.30. We're good to go. So, that's how you do it. And now you have a 12 volt power supply to take care of all the goodies on your layout. Got me in there? Yeah, there we go. Voila! Too easy, right? So, if you have any questions, make sure you can email me, Jim13A at hotmail.com, and I'll walk you through any problems you might have, but this is so simple, your kid sister or kid brother could do it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this helps some of you, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.